So I'd like to welcome to the show today. I have Steve from the band Belvedere. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely my pleasure. I know we were talking beforehand, but I just wanted to. So I wanted this on tape, so it's there. But yeah, I'm a big fan of you guys. Weirdly enough, and not weirdly enough, but back in I think it was must have been early to mid 2000s. I think you released Fast Forward Eats Tape.
Hmm.
And that was the first time I heard you guys because I was on a bit of a sort of like punk rock, skate punk kind of run when it came to music.
Hmm.
I was into bands like 28 Days and like Rise Against, stuff like that. And yeah, you guys got recommended to me by my local record store, which is actually still around in Camberley, in fact, where I said I live. And I picked up that album because you I think you got it released on Golf Records. I've got it here, so I should have had it with me. I've got the CD somewhere in this garage. But I just want to say massive fan. I went back and listened to your early stuff as well, and then I know you guys kind of called hiatus for a bit, and then you came back and released a couple more albums which kind of went under my radar. And I've literally, when I got sent through this brand new single which we're going to talk about in a moment, I went back and listened to your last album back in, I think it was 2016, 17.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and love it. It's just it gave me all those vibes from way back then, and this new single, Good Grief Retreat, I'm really enjoying. um,
Thank you.
I've been giving it spins and stuff on my radio show. Also, I do live streams because, like I said, the clubs aren't open.
Yeah, right.
But I do online DJ live streams as well, and I gave it a spin on that, and people were like asking what it was and all that kind of stuff. So it's getting a good reaction.
Oh, that's great.
My side of things.
Thanks very much. Yeah, it's funny, like and thanks for the history on that. That's awesome. We had one of our first when we started talking about coming over to the UK and Europe, one of the first people that we spoke with was Lil and Catherine at Household Name Records, and they put out "'Twas Hell Said Former Child," and then Fast Forward Eats the Tape came out through Golf Plastic Head over there, and yeah, we kind of called it quits about a year after that album. We split up for 7 years, and then yeah, came back together on some reunion shows and kept flying ahead, and before you knew it, we had a record out, and here we are 5 years later with another one. So that's one of the silver linings, at least, of being locked down the last year and having all our shows canceled, is that we just said, well, we got to do something here. So we put together 13 songs for this new upcoming album.
Awesome. And what can you tell us about the album coming up? Because I mean, all I've seen is this track on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm quite excited because like I said, it gave me those vibes from way back then, and I'm very big into my, well, I say nostalgia. You get to a certain age and
Yeah.
remembering I could skateboard, yeah. But it's just like, what can you tell? What's the sort of plan with the album? Like, due out for this year, or are you kind of waiting to see what the climate looks like, in a couple of months' time?
No, we're gonna go for it. Actually, we set a date for May 14th, and we weren't really holding anything back because it took us a good 6 to 9 months to put things together for the record. We recorded it in December, which was an ordeal in itself, given restrictions, and our bass player lives in Toronto, so he recorded his bass tracks DI from Toronto. But we all put it together in our studio. Our drummer Casey that's what he does. He records bands, so we put it together, and we tracked, mixed, and mastered it there at our studio. And yeah, we said it. May 14th is the date. It's a 13-song album, and it's coming on Lockjaw Records for the EU and UK, and Thousand Islands Records for Canada, US, and really, everything else, Australia, Japan, such like that. So yeah, we have a couple more singles coming out over the next couple of weeks.
Cool.
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say that, but they are coming. You'll start seeing them soon. and yeah, record comes out May 14th, and given how things go, I guess we'll just kind of wait and see how things go. But we're looking to reschedule. We had 90 shows booked for 2020.
Yeah.
And part of 2021. So we are hoping that maybe we can get back over at the tail end of this year, and definitely next year as well. So yeah, we're planning on touring quite a bit.
Yeah, no, that's really cool to know. And I'm if you make it over here once everything's lifted, then yeah, I'm going to be there. But what like during the lockdown and stuff, I've been quite fortunate to speak to a lot of bands like yourself and sort of gauge what they've been up to. Obviously, you guys created a record.
Mhm.
What sort of other things? What other things you've been up to, and also what kind of it's a really like I found it to be a real good learning point for a lot of bands. Like they've learned a lot about other processes, or just being able to adapt to the situation, like being that kind of like chameleon of life on that front.
Yeah, yeah.
How does it affect you guys in Canada? Because I've spoken to a few people in Canada, but not many.
Yeah, so I mean, we're a lot more spread out in Canada. We do have quite a few cases, and depending on which province you're in, things have been locked down at certain times. Not really the harsher lockdowns like we've seen in places like in Britain, but um, yeah, it's what have we been doing outside of the album? I mean, a few of us, like I have a kid, we have families, so it's been like trying to keep our young ones entertained and not driving them, want to make sure that they're happy and stuff like that. That's always a first and foremost. And then yeah, whenever we're able to, I've been able to do a few acoustic things online with the Manchester Punk Festival or Spam Festival. So I'm trying to keep the creative side going a little bit. We did do one in the summertime when numbers were quite low. We were able to fly out to Quebec, and we did an online streaming show where people bought tickets and the whole thing, and it was awesome, like really good production in a nice venue. And that was our kind of our only show that we've been able to do. So most of it's just been kind of writing separately and jamming when we can,
Yeah.
in the studio. And like it's a nice big studio, so we've got lots of room and everybody's got their own space, so it works out good.
Cool.
And yeah, just kind of plugging away. And once we sort of had some deadlines with the labels and stuff, then we just started putting things into place for recording it. So yeah, it's been a busy year. It's like most people, it's kind of like I'm doing a lot of things and then I'm doing a lot of nothing, and then and it all just seems to meld into one big long day, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly has. I'm like trying to hark back to certain things I can't when people like say, "Oh, this happened last year." I was like, "Really? Was it last year? Was it
Yeah.
like 3 years ago?" Um, but like, how did you find like? Because I've spoken to a few bands that have done those sort of like live productions online. Obviously you said you really enjoyed it, but how did you find it initially? Like, because obviously you feed from a crowd, like when you are playing live, for instance.
Yeah.
But did you treat it more sort of maybe like a music video shoot, or was it kind of did you still get that kind of like kick from it, or a different kick?
Yeah, I think we did. It is a bit different, but playing in front of nobody, I mean, Christ, that was us for the first 4 or 5 years of our band existence. So I mean, it just made me feel like I was at home, in my teens. But um, it was okay. Like there was people at the venue, they're all masked up, and there was a film crew and all that stuff. So when you'd crack jokes or you kind of make things, you'd get sort of a response from it. But
Yeah.
you just have to imagine, you just have to imagine that people are there, and try to have as much fun as you can. So I mean, I guess in a way, because you're not feeding off a live audience, if I'm smiling and having a good time, it's because I'm actually having a good time. So
Yeah.
you know we had a blast doing it, and unfortunately that was the only thing we could do, but it was good to do.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's one of those things that I've seen, obviously, an emergence in the lockdown kind of like era that we've had of bands being able to do this.
Mhm.
I've spoken to some have found it weird, some have found it, actually, like you say, it was a lot of fun. And I've watched a lot of them as well. Unfortunately, I missed your one. But I will go back and see if there's any footage.
Mhm.
But recently I tuned into Love and Death, which is Head from
Mhm.
Bond's band.
Yep.
And they did a live for their album launch, and that was pretty good. It was like a full production
Yeah.
without crowd and everything like that. And then I watched Crowbar for a total sort of like sideway.
Yeah.
Crowbar did one from their, I'm guessing it was their rehearsal room.
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah, one of the best ones I saw was Less Than Jake. They did a full thing. They had television commercials, contortionists, like jugglers. It was crazy. Like so they'd go in and they'd do this live thing, and then they would kind of cut to like a pre-done commercial that they had done. And so they really went for it. And it was hilarious. They had a bonus thing for people that wanted to get a VIP package or whatever. And then they went back and had a whole extra like hour and a half of them doing interviews, playing at Rogers Studio in Modehouse Studio. And like it was like, for me, the best one I've seen so far. The most elaborate, anyways, for sure.
I'm gonna have to check that one out as well,
Yeah.
because I saw a lot of as well last year. I had a few sort of anniversary shows. A lot of bands were celebrating their 20th anniversary of certain records, which made me feel stupidly old. But
Yeah.
they also, I think it was Nonpoint did a really good one as well. I was just thinking back to
Mm.
them. They did I think it was Statement, which was one of their albums back in 2000, and yeah, that was really good as well, because they brought in special guests and they had like little vignettes between the songs, discussing the album, maybe some sort of raw footage that they had from back then and stuff like that. And I thought that was
Awesome.
really cool. I thought that was like something that was really good fan service. Like, I think at this time
Yeah.
it's important for that. Obviously, it's good on the creative side of things to get your art out there, because then that's your kind of like output, that's your mental kind of like, health thing as well, where you just kind of like push that art out there. But you've also got people who are looking for that sort of like bit of distraction, or looking for that entertainment, and guys like yourselves doing those live streams have helped a lot of people, which has been absolutely, well, in my eyes, absolutely brilliant. Like, I expect like adapting to this lockdown, or this pandemic that we've got.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it kind of
Well, I mean, you know, a year and a half is a long time to lose touch with people, right? So even if it's not the same, I've seen lots of people say, "Oh, it's not the same as a live show," and you're right, it's not. But you know, if you can kind of keep in touch with people every 6 months or something with a little thing, just to, you know,
yeah,
just to let them know you're still there, and let you know that they're still there.
yeah.
And when we can get at this again, then I can't wait. I think I'm excited to see how things will be, hopefully, when we can do it again.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's the same thing. Like, from my perspective, I've been, like I said, I was quite fortunate to speak to a lot of bands over this time, like over Zoom, Skype, whatever, and do it for my podcast and everything. But it was like, it's this sort of downtime has given me a lot more chance to listen to new music, not just from the sort of established bands from back when, but also new bands as well. Like, I get, obviously, being in the sort of like journalistic side of things now, you get sent promotional stuff. Obviously, I got sent promo from you guys, and but it's actually giving me time to listen to it, whereas before I'd always look out for the sort of ones that have got the most hype, to
Yeah.
on the, to obviously get people listening or whatever on social media. But now, this time, I've been like concentrating on getting a lot more sort of like new bands or music that people haven't quite heard yet, and getting it to the forefront, because people are listening now as well. I found, like, people have turned to radio, people have turned to podcasts more in this time,
Mhm.
and I feel it's like dutiful to push bands from this point,
Yeah.
because I was in a like position of being in a band when I was younger, but that 2000 era, I was in a new metal band, for instance, which I do talk about a lot on this show, and people do know.
You gotta. You're
Yeah.
your best promoter.
Oh no, totally. But I was a DJ in a new metal band, so I was on that kind of like, abusive end of it, where people would go, fucking DJ. But but like, just, and like being like given the opportunities back then to push, because radio was more apparent then. The internet was kind of, it was there, but it wasn't as dominant as it is now. And just giving bands that chance, and now people are listening again. It's like, kind of like, now's the chance to get your music kind of out to these people, and having these formats, streaming formats, is a level playing ground for a lot of them as well.
Yeah.
It's just down to whoever's pushing. And like you guys, I'm playing your music on a regular basis. I think there's a
Thank you.
few DJs on the station that are doing it as well.
That's great.
When I last saw the stats, you were playing quite a few times, and I'm really looking forward to the album. Like, just like, I mean, May 14th, and you're on Lockjaw as well, which is another sort of like well-established indie label here. I mean, I've known that label for, God, must be about 25 years, I think,
Mhm.
if not around then. How did the sort of link up come with them? Was that just sort of just by chance, or was it?
I don't know all the history of Lockjaw, to be honest. I only know Rob, to begin with, and so our last record, Revenge of the Fifth, actually came out in the UK on Lockjaw, but it
Okay.
was kind of spread out amongst a lot of labels, right? So it was a little more, I think, kind of thinned out a bit. But Rob and I have known each other for some time. His band Darko had played with us in Japan a few years ago,
Hmm.
and we knew the band anyways, sort of going back. So I know Rob and Leslie and some of the other team. I also am a booking agent and manager, so some
Okay.
of the other bands on their label, Wolf Rick, and drones I already work with. So we already have this sort of established relationship going. So it just made sense. Like when it was time to start talking about who was going to release it over on your side of things, they were well, there wasn't really a second place, I don't think
Yeah.
so.
No, that's awesome. And I love drones, by the way. I know
Mm-hmm.
you say you look after them. I recently just discovered them as well through
Mm-hmm.
Mike at Earshot in the
Yeah,
state. He sent out a promo, and yeah, I'm trying to get them on my show as well. So
that's great. Yeah, I book drones in Europe and the UK. So
yeah, no, they're a really cool band. I'm really loving their
hmm
stuff. It's kind of like
yeah, they're great.
real resurgence of a punk rock sound kind of happening now, which is great. It kind of, I think it did the kind of like the usual sort of twist of stuff, like when any music genre gets popular, gets diluted, but then you get them come back round. Like a lot of the bands that were established back then come back, recreate that sound, and you got a lot of new bands like Drones like coming in and adding their own kind of like um their own twist to it as well.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
and it's awesome, and that's great. I didn't know you looked after them, so that's awesome.
Mhm.
They're a great band. So if anyone's listening, listen to them. Listen to your stuff as well. Um,
I
but
don't mind pushing all the bands on the agency. Let's go. We can push them all here. Why not?
that's all good. It's all good. Yes, no,
Yeah.
definitely. But I've got a couple of questions left for you, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Rest of your day. What I want is more about yourself. So what I want to find out from you are what are your three most pivotal albums? So what I'm talking about is the album, like you first heard an album and you're like, fuck, that makes me want to be in a band, or that
Mhm.
makes me want to play guitar. That was play an instrument of some kind. What could you really what albums could you put in those categories?
Yeah, I think. Um, hmm. I mean, when I was a kid, my dad would play "Endless Summer" by Beach Boys all the time, so that made me want to sing.
Nice.
I didn't actually become a singer until much later on, but that's where it kind of gave. I always loved the whole idea of harmony and three-part harmonies, and I loved how they really overdid it. I think Master of Puppets by Metallica was probably a big one as far as guitar playing goes, and I think I was about 13 when I picked up a guitar, and that was one I just loved. That's why I love downstroke picking right now, and I think it was all just kind of listening to that band at the time. But Bad Religion Suffer is when everything kind of all clicked together for me,
Yeah.
lyrically, musically. It just kind of gave me a roadmap um, for music, but also a message. And that album came out in '88. I don't think I listened to it until about '92,
Mm.
maybe '91, '92, and then but it was actually No Control I heard first, and then what? Holy smokes! All these songs are a minute and a half, and there's so much stuff that
Yeah.
they're saying, and so then I just went back and I found Suffer, and then my head exploded, and then that was it.
Yeah. No, I love that early kind of like punk hardcore um sort of sound as well, like back in, I mean, it was out before I was a kid, we're talking Bad Brain,
Hmm.
Black Flag and stuff like that, but I really got into
Yeah.
that sort of side of things as well.
Yeah,
um
I mean, I listened to a lot of that stuff too, and Dead Kennedys and DOA, and the little, a good shout out to some Canadian bands there. But that Suffer was kind of where it all just like made sense to me. That became my band, for sure.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. I'm going to go back and listen to a couple of those because well, I haven't listened to Beach Boys for a long time, to be honest. There's a problem,
Yeah,
but
yeah. Well, one of the funnest things about some of those older recordings is knowing that they recorded all that stuff on an 8-track. So a lot of those 3 and 4 part harmonies they were doing live, around a microphone.
yeah,
And ultimately, when we did our first record, because no one stopped us, we tracked on a 1-inch tape, 8-track tape. So same kind of thing, it was like, well, we're out of tracks. There's 1 track left. 3, you get out there and try and do your best, right? So good or bad, we did the same kind of thing, so but there is a little bit of recording magic in some of that stuff, when
yeah.
it is a bit, even though sometimes it's not as good, it doesn't hold up, it's still endearing in some ways.
Yeah, no, that's why I like to go back, because whenever I ask this question to artists like yourself, it's more of a like it's a discovery piece for me, because it's like what I like to go back to have like listen to albums that people have had like those moments with, and that made you want to be part of what you want to be today, or part of who you are today. Obviously, Master of Puppets, Metallica, huge album, like you know,
Yeah.
when it comes to the sort of the metal side of things. It's, you know, it's legendary on that front. Let's put it like, probably not to give it its enough due, but it's yeah, it's a great album. And Bad Religion, like I said before, like that sort of like punky hardcore sound, ethos, and that kind of like, you know, having a message in there as well, which is, you know, a legible message as well, not just screaming kind of like random incoherent, you know. There is actually something there. There's,
I don't know what you're talking about. I've done a few screaming incoherent things myself over the years, on tape and off tape. But the one thing I'll say about Suffer though, and I mean, you know, I don't want to keep banging the drum on this, but it still holds up. Like I still, like I, you know, all of us in our on our 40s, we still try to, you know, keep somewhat in shape. So I'm running all the time now as much as I can, and that's still my go-to album. I don't care how many times I listen to it. It's like the perfect amount of time. It's like 26 minutes long, 27 minutes long, and you just kind of like, it never gets old to me, you know. And to have that come out in '88, you know, music wise, but also even recording wise, I'm blown away at how good that one sounds, you know,
yeah,
even now. So yeah, it's a good one.
cool, excellent. Finally, what are your hobbies away from music? I know you've already mentioned, like, you know, spending time with the family, things like that,
Mhm.
and your booking agency. Obviously that's more of a business than, you know.
Yeah.
But what other things do you sort of get up to?
Yeah, it's I don't play as much as I want to. It's funny how we really do go into a lot of, like, you know, you play a lot, and then especially when it's time, it comes time for a record or touring, but then there's a lot of downtime after that, you know, where you don't really play as much. So, you know, definitely hanging out with the kid, keeping him busy. We all have part-time jobs too, so I sell beer on the side. You know, because my booking agency, there's not much going on with that right now.
Yeah,
But that was really taking up a lot of the time, was booking. And you know, it is a business, but it's also super fun too. I mean, I like being involved with other bands. I like guiding when, you know, I'm asked or needed. You know, I like putting together tours. I like the Rubik's cube of sort of putting, or the Tetris of putting everything together, you know,
yeah,
whether it be a route or a tour, you know. So I do love that stuff a lot. And just like everybody else, I'm binge watching way too much, you know, Netflix and Crave TV. So,
yeah. No, I
and running when I can, but not as much as I should. We live in Canada here, where we're just getting out of the -30, -40 segment of our winters. So thankfully the snow is starting to melt, but I have a feeling that we're not done yet.
no. It's always more around the corner. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, no, I've got a line on the, because I used to book my band as well back in the
yeah.
day, the manager and booking agent, press agent, all in one.
Mhm.
And there's nothing quite like a logistically perfect tour.
Yeah.
Like not
You let me
having
know when I get one. I've never got one yet, but yeah.
got one, and it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
perfectly around the UK, and it was just
yeah,
like I got it, like every venue was like dead on route, and I was just like, this is brilliant. There was no like
yeah.
going up to, like, you know, Nottingham and then coming all the way back down to Bournemouth and then going all the way up. You know, it was like nicely around the country. So
That's good.
I got
You have to remember
one.
too, like being a Canadian guy too, you know, I have to, if I was one of my European or UK bands, I might be a little worried having a Canadian agent booking for you, because I might think, oh, a 6-hour drive, that's like a short drive for what we're used to here. You
Yeah,
know, you tell somebody a 6-hour drive, and they probably look at you kind of funny. But
yeah, no,
I,
it's
I my grasps of distances on Google Maps isn't as good as possibly the people that live in London and know how long it actually takes to get in and out of that city. So
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, like I lived in the States for a bit, so I got a real
yeah,
appreciation of that kind of oh, it's only 4 hours down the road.
yeah,
Like, because roads in the States are, they're long, they're straight, they're generally smooth. There's no sort of like windy back roads unless you want to take a shortcut. Um,
right,
um,
yeah,
but here it's all kind of like, you know, we do have obviously, you know, highways, main roads, all
mhm,
that kind of stuff going up and down the country, but you've also got a lot of intertwining country roads. You've also got a lot of towns that are kind of like not
yeah,
built for traffic.
yeah,
And yeah, I remember like obviously being on tour and thinking, oh my god, this like 3-hour journey is taking forever. And it was just like winding around, and you just kind of, I guess it was car sickness and stuff as well. But like in
mhm,
the States, it was like, oh, let's go to, like, I was living in Tampa, so let's go to Cape Canaveral. And I was like,
mhm,
okay, but it was a straight line shot straight across Florida. Um,
yeah,
like 2.5, I think it was like 2.5 hours, 3 hours, maybe more. But it just it didn't feel like that. It was just a straight,
no,
you know,
No.
it's just like,
Yeah.
this is how it should be.
Well, who knows? But yeah, it definitely, yeah. So I do try to be, you know, and as a person who's spent a lot of time playing in a band too, I do like to, if you can keep it under 5 hours for a drive, that's okay, you know?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Thanks.
Good luck with everything when it comes to the album and all that kind of stuff. And I look forward to hearing the next couple of singles. And well, absolutely looking forward to the album as well. So, and then hopefully tours and
Mhm.
more gigs. I think 2022 is going to be an expensive year.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks a lot for having me. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you. We've got some things tentatively planned at the end of the year. And if not, then of course we'll push to, you know, beginning of 2022. So just
Awesome.
keep an eye out and we'll can't wait to see you.
Excellent. Well, cool. Thank you, Steve. Have a good rest of your day, man.
You too. Thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you, man. Bye bye.
See ya.